Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Diana Alarcon, and I'm the Marketing Events Coordinator for Topcon Solutions. Thank you for attending our Point Layout webinar series, Integrating Point Layout with Revit. So before officially handing off the presentation to David Campbell and Joey Whitney, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. If you were watching that promotional video just now, that is about our customer recovery program. So if you'd like more information on that, you'll be able to find that in the chat. So if you go to your GoToWebinar control panel, you should have a chat pane as well as a questions pane. So feel free to answer any of your questions throughout the presentation there, and we will answer those time permitting. So some information on where this webinar can be found as it is being recorded. If you do go to our website, topconsolutions.com, it'll be available under the technical support tab there. Yes, under videos. That's one location where you can find that. And conveniently, right next to the technical support tab, we have the You're Invited tab. Yeah, and that's where you can find any of our upcoming webinars. So if you're available on Wednesday, July 22nd, we have another session, a part of this webinar series, Autodesk Point Layout and Navisworks. So we hope to see you for that one as well. Another place that you can find our videos, along with any demos, product information, is on our YouTube channel. So on our YouTube channel, Topcon Solutions Store, we would love if you'd be able to like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on so you know when this webinar is uploaded a little bit later on today. So as I was saying, all of these links will be available in the chat. If you have any questions at all throughout the webinar, just let us know. So with that being said, I'd like to turn this presentation over to our great presenters this morning, David Campbell and Joey Whitney.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate that. I am Joey Whitney. I am the regional account executive here at Topcon, focusing on Autodesk and Bluebeam software. With me today is Dave Campbell. Dave Campbell is our application specialist that's going to be showing off how this all works and the fun things that APL can do inside of Revit. So again, this is the second in our series of 3. Today is all about Revit.
All right, so let's go ahead and I'll start with the agenda. And today we're going to start.
I didn't realize I was on mute. Sorry, guys. So this is Joe Whitney, and with me today is Dave Campbell. I'll be showing off our. I'll be going over the agenda real quick, and David will be doing the kind of the demonstration of what we're going to be showing today in Revit. So a little bit about us. Then we'll do the introduction to APL, automated versus manually placing points, cleaning up those points, sending points out to the field, and then some quick tips and tricks. So about us, if you're unfamiliar with Topcon Solutions, Topcon Solutions is the retail division of Topcon Positioning Systems, which again is a subsidiary of Topcon Global. We are the world leader in construction layout, machine automation, and land surveying products, as well as scan to BIM technology and all the fun stuff in there. We are a platinum tier award-winning Autodesk partner, certified training center. We are a platinum Bluebeam partner as well. We have 13 brick and mortar locations, but we support and service 20 states, including Washington, D.C. So your presenter today, again, Dave Campbell and myself, Joe Whitney. Dave is an application specialist focusing on things like Revit and Bluebeam and all the fun BIM technologies. I am the account executive overseeing the eastern half of the United States for Topcon Solutions. So before we get into this, I just have two polls that I would like to ask. The first is, is anyone currently using Autodesk Point Layout? So is there any familiarity in this? We'll give it a few seconds for those polls to be submitted. We have one more right afterwards. All right, I think that's enough time. Everybody's responded. And the next one is for those of you that have used APL or have familiarity with APL, what is your current level of expertise? Are you a beginner? Are you intermediate, advanced, or an expert? All right, I think that is long enough. Diana, did you want to share the results of those polls?
I will share the first one now.
All right, so 30% said yes, 70% said no. And the second one, 64% were beginners and 27% were intermediate, while just 9% were advanced. So a lot of tips and tricks that we're going to be able to show off today. Hopefully we'll demystify it, make it easy for everybody to get into and use. It's pretty straightforward, and look forward to showing some of the higher level features as well. So with that, a quick intro about APL. So if you aren't familiar with APL, what APL does is it allows us to place points automatically on models or dumb lines essentially. It does this in a few ways, and it does it by industry. So it's kind of cross. It's got many uses in multiple industries. So whether you're structural, interior layouts, mechanical, it doesn't really matter. What it's going to do is it's going to place these points on there so that we can export them out to the field. So the guys in the data collectors can actually, just go and know where they're going to shoot the next point without actually having to navigate on the file and press a button, drop points. It just makes this a lot easier and more efficient. And it's just way more efficient than pulling tape. So who would use APL? Again, mechanical, electrical, piping, fire protection, interior layouts such as walls, structural, so any GCs doing self-performing concrete. These are primarily who use APL. There are dozens of different industries that we can get into, but these are primarily the main ones. And the reason being, they have the most points to lay out and the most complex geometry to place these in. So with that though, APL, it might seem like it's daunting. It might seem like it's a hard to use application because it does all these applications, but we're going to show you just how easy it is to use. So David, last week we reviewed APL and AutoCAD. It was pretty straightforward with the automated functionality, but we also placed some elements manually. I imagine Revit's going to be a bit more different due to its database design. So I'll turn it over to you to show some of the automated functionality.
All right. Good morning, and thank you all for joining us. We're doing a webinar on Tuesday this week, so figured we'd get it out kind of earlier in the week. Initially, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the like the setup and how we install APL. Joey, can you send the share screen over to me? Thank you. So. There it is. All right, there we go. So when we initially install, we download and install Point Layout. It's going to be like any other install. It's going to be shorter because it's not as much data involved in it. But what you'll see is that you're going to get a toolbar that populates in your ribbon, okay? And this is going to populate in any like software version that you have installed on your computer. So it's going to have APL all the way down, whatever software version that you're utilizing. The next part of this is you'll notice that when you click on Autodesk Point Layout, you see Get License, User Guide, Product Info. You're going to have to click Get License, and that's what activates this ribbon. From there, you're going to see an entire group of tools spread out across the ribbon. Okay, so for this demo, I'm going to start to the left and work my way to the right. But I wanted to talk about control points. So with our control points, as you all know, we have to calibrate our devices and kind of set them into the model, right? In this sense, this is what we're gonna use control points for. So when I hit control point, you're gonna see it asks me if I wanna place a point prefix, if I wanna start with a specific number, and what my description is gonna be, and of course, what role I'm gonna use. So I'm gonna leave this as control point. And you'll notice that we have some pretty cool options for placing these control points. We can either place them on a grid, XYZ location, place point, or place multiple points. So these are going to be our manual ways of placing these points. If I hit just place point, I can go element, and let's say that I wanted to put it right on anything inside of my model. You'll see that it's snapping right to all of those elements inside of my model. So I can place the point wherever I need to. Okay, I'm gonna get back up here, escape out of that. The other way to do this is to place them on the grid. So I'm gonna go ahead and demo this, and it asks you if you'd like to append the grid line names to the description of the point. You say yes, it's just gonna take that data into the point itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose grid here, but what this does, this dialog box here, is it's asking you if you want to use a grid elevation, right? Do you want to specify custom elevations or set your elevations to specific levels? So I'd say if you have a multiple floor building, you can actually place these on the grids and then go all the way up the building. So I'm going to go ahead and say grid. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, grab all of my grids here, and then hit finish. Done. And when I zoom in, we should see my points. Oh, am I just having trouble seeing them? They will typically place on every one of the grids in this view. Let me do the VV and just make sure I have my generic models turned on, which I do. Okay. Well, anyways, our control points are there in our grids, and it's a nice kind of easy process. Now, typically you can do that, or what I like to do is actually use some detail lines, and maybe I'll go out from a column about 20 feet and maybe take the next column down 20 feet, meet somewhere right along the grid lines, and I'll place my control points there. Just because when we get into if it's an actual building, we're not gonna be able to calibrate based off the inner portion of that column. So I'll give us some offset from that to help us kind of calibrate it. Now, moving on from that, we can go ahead and start using a lot of the automated points within, well, automated layout tools for these points. Now, one of those being, since I'm in a structural model here, I'll utilize the wall. So with a wall point, you see it comes up with a big dialog box here asking me what type of point, what point prefix, if I want to assign any, a start number, so I'm going to go with 100 here. And then what role do we want to use for this? Do you want to stake out? Is this going to be staked, verified, as built, existing? It's a monument, a target, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and stake this out. A beautiful thing about utilizing APL in Revit, you're going to see point phase. So yes, we can actually place points for our different phases or in our phases. So if you know that you have a demo model and you're really laying out to track existing elements and you want to go ahead and figure out when those are removed, you know, where they are, what you can reuse and what you can't, you're going to be able to go ahead and utilize these phases with your points to go ahead and, you know, just lay out as you need to. Now, another thing that we can utilize here is the point description options. So with this, you can use the item or the type name or set a default or custom name to these points when they go to get laid out here. Some of your selection options, I really like this too because we can choose either select all, select some, and you can also check mark filter by type. When I hit filter by type, it's actually going to give me a list of all the different elements in my view, and I can go ahead and place them on it. Any curved walls that you may have in your model, you can go ahead and place the points all along the curve. You can set a distance of how far you want them to be spaced, if you want it to be in the center of the arc, those kind of options. And then how are we going to lay this wall out? Like with our points, do you want them to be just at the top? Do you want them on the bottom or both the top and the bottom? And then where do you want to place these points? So where exactly is this going to be located in your wall? As we know, walls are made up of can be made up of multiple layers. So if you're using something like a metal stud and you want to go ahead and, you know, lay off of the center of track, we have that option. If you want to lay off of the finish track, that's fine too. Or of course the finish or the track. So we can go ahead and kind of choose where we want to put those points specifically. I say okay. And here it comes up all my other walls. So I'll go with, we'll do that one too, and say okay. And as I scroll in here, I'm gonna have to pick them all. Make sure I got these.
Click finish
and
at top. There you go.
Finish. There we go. And there they are. Now I do, what you guys will notice is for demo purposes, so for this webinar, I adjusted the graphics, the visibility graphics of my points, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that here in a little bit, but this really just helps them kind of stand out so we can see them, okay? And again, I'll cover that here in a little bit. That was a nice, easy just layout for these walls, and they're done, right? Another one, the slab footing. So same kind of thing. If I want to use my wall points, if I'll start off of wherever my walls ended, if I go select all or select some, I can do that. And then I can choose which foundation. So I'd want to look for my bearing here, my footings, and there we go. So I've laid out all points on my footings. I just got to hit finish up here. Oh, I didn't select anything. So we'll try that one again. Filter by type. Just grab you two. Probably won't have them in this view. I should have went into the top of footing view. Okay, all right. Well, I'll keep pushing on. So good advice is to be in the top of footing view or a 3D view when you do that. So you can grab those elements, but that'll automatically go through and place all the points on your slabs and footings in that sense. Now, let's go ahead and switch gears here for a second. So I'm going to switch over to my MEP model here. So let's say that you want to go ahead and lay out off of some pipes, right? Well, we go right back into Autodesk Point Layout, and here you're going to see under right on top of fabrication, but here's the MEP portion, we have pipe. So if I want to lay off my pipes, I say, do I want to select all of them in the view or fence off a selection? Let's just say all. And I'm going to do all here, but you can choose for horizontal or vertical. I'm going to say all for demo purposes, just so we can see these points. I'm going to hit all. And then where do you want these points to populate? Do you want it to go along the run, the top and start of the pipe, the bottom end, both? Do you want where it clashes with anything else? So I'm going to say along the run, we're going to use standard parameters, but in this sense too, you can use custom descriptions or a parameter type to pull with this point description. I'm just going to go standard. And then do you want to append the diameter to the point description? So yes, I'm going to say automatic here, but how should your points be spaced? Do you want to start and end your points? Your start and end points will always be marked, but where or how far do you want them apart? You can use a percentage. So I know that, 20% of this pipe run, I want it to have points, and it's going to go ahead and space them out for that. A specific distance, or again, automatic. So I go automatic. It's upgrading my model from 2015 to 2020. This model is updated, but I have brought this model up through 4 or 5 years of Revit now, so it lets me know. So what we're going to see is right here along the ends of our pipe are our points. Now, my points are pretty huge and they stick out. They stick out pretty well in that pipe there. But you'll notice in this model too, I did not activate those. I'm sorry, the color. I didn't adjust my graphics for the points. So you can kind of see it's a little bit. I mean, they're good to see here because they're bigger than the pipe, but they are a little hard to see. They do kind of blend in with some of the other elements around them. So that is a good thing to go ahead and try. Now, one thing I want to talk about, well, a couple other things I want to talk about. We have a few different types of pipe, right? So you'll notice it placed points in my pipe here for me already because these are designed just regular types of Revit, like standard pipes, okay? You'll notice that right down here, I've also got points because these are also Revit standard parts. Now, in here, some of my connections wouldn't have points because these are essentially like a Revit family, okay? And we can use these are Victaulic series, but we can use several different types of families that have a lot of different parameters that we may bring in from a manufacturer, and we can utilize layout to still lay out with these parts or these pipes. Now, the other portion of this, though, you'll notice that these pipes here do not have any points. That's because these are fabrication parts, okay? To lay out to fabrication, we will need to hit the little fabrication drop down. I'm going to show you guys that one here in a second, but or look specifically for this type of pipe, okay? There's a little bit different workflow, but big thing here. A lot of times we want to make sure, especially if you're doing any prefabrication, anything like that, that everything fits, everything is going to line up where it needs to go. We want to do clashing everything and make sure that this is going to be how it is in the field. It's going to be cut to what they need. And of course, we want to make sure that they install it correctly in the correct area. Now, one big thing I do want to say is a lot of times we will get design models such as this, and we will have these Revit default pipes, but they're not to prefabrication standards. Well, that's a nice and easy change, right? You'll see I click on this pipe, and if you look straight up here, it says design to fabrication. This is easily going to convert generic parts or whatever families that we have over to fabrication parts. Okay, and I have my MEP fabrication catalogs over here that I can go ahead and utilize for this. Now, I'm going to try that again. I'm going to select, let's say, this pipe here. I'm going to go to design to fabrication. I'm going to choose the service I want to use. So I'm going to use the Victaulic service here and say OK. And now you see it's a Schedule 40 black pipe. Okay. So it's automatically changed it. Now you will notice also though that it did carry the points with it. So it's not going to lose its points. Even if you guys go ahead and lay out on those generic families and then switch them over, they will retain their points, okay? All right. Now, another one I wanted to show you guys, well, you know what, actually, let's try this out real quick. So if we go to fabrication and we go to fabrication run, you'll see that we can choose duct point, electrical point, pipe. So maybe I'll go with another pipe point, change it to a different start number. So maybe I'll go 200 here. Stake out, again, point phase. The description options, I'll just use the type name. I'll select some. We can go filter by type. And then here's where you see, of course, the curve options. How do you want to mark these and the direction that we can go ahead and choose. So maybe I'll choose both of my services here just to make sure I get all my pipes. Grab that, hit finish, and voila, there they are. Okay, So very simple, kind of easy way to lay out on those fabrication parts as well. Okay, now, speaking of fabrication, there's another portion here that we really need to take a look at, and that would be, let me go into my group, change this down. Actually, I'm doing too much. Oh. Okay, I brought these in yesterday. Oh, there we go. There they are. Okay, so if I have my my hangers, right, and maybe I want to go ahead and place a couple of hangers on my duct here. This is going to be very nice and simple to do. Okay, my hangers are in. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and lay out to those, same kind of process. In this case, fabrication hanger. I can leave it as a duct point or a pipe point, what have you. So I'm gonna leave it as a duct here. What start number do you want? Again, the type name, and do you want to select some? Do you want to select all? Filter by type, anything like that. It already knows I have mine in here. So I'm gonna grab that one, and I'm gonna grab that one. I hit finish, and my points are right there, ready to go. All right. So very kind of quick, easy ways to automate your layout process. Now, are there manual tools? Yes, you can still do manual layout. We have the manual option here. You also have an instance option here. So if I go with an instance, maybe I want to place points. I'm just going to use this duct, for instance. And there we go. So if I choose my duct, I have to select it first. That'd be better. Do point layout, select instance. And you know what, maybe zoom in a little bit on it.
I believe that's a fabrication duct.
Oh, that is a fabrication duct. Thank you very much, Joey. That's why it's not doing it. It does get a little picky sometimes. It does get picky. Okay, so we'll try this one again. I'll go back, APL and instance, and I'll go with a electrical point this time, stakeout. Where do I want my start number? I will go with the insertion point on this one here. Say okay, and there it is. There's it, my point. Okay, so we still have our manual ways to lay out as well. If I choose manual, I can go through, is it a duct hanger, pipe hanger, sleeves, walls, electrical, and again, just essentially placing that data with that point to lay it out. And then I can also insert offset points if I wanted to. So if I'm going to be laying out a trench or anything like that around this pipe, I can go ahead and have it offset that. So we can track, let's say, 2 feet on one side, 2 feet on the other side, and we're going to go from the center of that pipe. We can go ahead and utilize that to offset that trench for us. All right. Now, the one last thing I wanted to show you guys, I kind of ruined part of it here, but I'm going to utilize this. Is that an outlet? That's an occupancy sensor. Okay, so I'm going to use this sensor real quick, and I want to show you guys something else. We can, of course, manually lay out these points, but if I wanted to, say, take these occupancy sensors and I wanted to lay them out in this building, or, you know what, actually, I already have a family that I set aside too for this. Maybe I want to go ahead and lay out where this is a shower stall, where this is going to penetrate the concrete, right? So that'd be a good one to know where the drain is in this. So I've already taken a family aside here and cleaned up a lot of the dimensions and stuff we don't need out of it. Okay, now the interesting thing here is go into the family editor, right? And this is any family that you can get into and edit inside of Revit. So no, not your system families, but any other type. We can go ahead and utilize Autodesk Point Layout. You're going to see it right here. And this is where I can go ahead and either manually place this or do an instance. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to utilize an instance here just because it doesn't have a family, no real family data. These are a lot of lines and stuff inside of here. So I can go ahead and choose manual. And probably go with pipe on this one, I guess. We'll go with the description of shower penetration, stake out. Okay, we're going to go with element. We will place it right there in the center. Actually, let me make sure I grab my circle too. And there we go, there's 2 of them. just in case. All right, and I'll go ahead and load that back in. When I load this in, overwrite the existing version and its parameter values. All right, gonna be kind of hard. Oh, I shouldn't have rotated it. It's gonna be kind of hard to see with that, but essentially the family itself will populate with the point exactly where we placed it. Okay, actually you can see them right there now behind the pipe there. Let me hide this one. It'd be better to do that. I got a couple points hanging out here. But again, when I click right on that, you're going to see both of the points light up there in the middle. So every family that is used in this model of that instance, of that type, you're going to notice that they will all populate with points. So as I was saying about those occupancy sensors, if you have a lot of those things around the model, it would take a really long time to try and just grab every single one and lay out to them. I'm not doing all that. I'm going to go ahead, get into the family. I'm going to nest a point right inside of that family. And then right when I load it in, the family updates to have that point information inside of every one of them.
That's great, man. Yeah, the automated features and the point nesting definitely make this pretty streamlined as opposed to AutoCAD. That said, you know, we don't always have intelligent families and geometry to work from. What about, you know, say we've got a lot of detail items or something, you know, lines, arc circles, typical, you know, unintelligent CAD stuff. How would you lay out that? Maybe we're doing one line for conduit. What would you do?
Well, there are a couple different things that we can do. One is going to be to utilize, if there are lines, you have model line tools here. So I can go ahead and utilize that. I can say all and automatic again, and then you're going to see it automatically populates for me there. So that's if you're using any type of model lines. The other things that we can do, I'm going to come into my structural model again here. Another thing that we can do is to go ahead and utilize some of our maybe faces. Okay, so if we have a face, of course you can always use manual tools again, but in this instance I like picking the faces of these, and you can choose either the element, faces, edges, or the topo surface. So I go with faces in this instance, edges, automatic, and this is going to be, let's just do we're gonna do footing. Okay, so let's say I want the sides of my footing. As soon as I click, you see my points populate. And it's going to ask me every time if I want to change that description of what I'm placing here. I'll put it on the bottom of that one. There we go. All right, so it's any element with the face that it recognizes in the model, it's going to go ahead and place those points. There it is. Okay, or let's say we have a plate, embed, any type of anything of that nature. Again, we can go ahead and utilize that face. And there it is. There are my plates, you know, anchor bolts, anything like that we may need to lay out and check. It's a quick and easy process to go ahead and add those points. All right, and then I think, yeah, just the other one is the manual.
Man, again, straightforward, pretty easy to use. But just like last week in AutoCAD, I noticed you still have 2/3 of the ribbon left.
Yeah.
What, you know, show us some stuff that you would like to highlight, some tips and tricks, some relevant, you know, key features that people would be interested in, because, you know, after you lay out the points, there's a lot of other stuff you have to do too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you guys will notice I've been going kind of willy-nilly today and just laying out all of these points and these models. And I started these somewhere, I think in 100 and then maybe 200, not really taking much care to number these correctly and organize them. So if you ever need to quickly get in and renumber your points, they do have a tool for that. And we can do an automated renumbering or manual. So if I say automated, I can go ahead and choose specific systems to renumber, whether I want to select all, use some, use a filter. If I want to filter by layers, if I want to go ahead and utilize the pipes, the sleeves, the ducts, walls, things of that nature. And how do I want to renumber them? Do I want to go from 306 to 1, 2004 to 1 or 200, anything like that? I can go ahead and change it. And then here we're going to choose how we want to start numbering that and where we want to finish it off at, upper left to lower right, upper right, lower left. We can kind of choose whatever we need to. I say okay, it's going to go through and renumber all of my points. 2,349 points were automatically renumbered for me. So if I ever need to print that out into a CSV or just export some of those points, it's going to clean it up and organize it very well and quickly, might I add. Another thing we're going to be able to do is that you'll notice we have add tags. So I can go ahead and utilize add tags. And this is also another beautiful thing. Do you want to use the regular tag? Do you want to use a spot coordinate or a spot elevation? So for a lot of your structural elements, you can go ahead and utilize the spot elevations or coordinates there on those. If I just hit tag, oh, I got to lock the view. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lock this view real quick. You cannot annotate in a live 3D view. And I'll go ahead and hit add tags. And then again, I'll click tag and I will just hit all and yes. And there they go. There's all my points tagged out for me. Very quick, right? Now, we've kind of been talking about a few different things here. One being, I talked to you guys about the points, right? Making them look different in models. Well, one big thing here is manage, okay? If you go into manage, this is gonna give you information on, I need to change my display settings here a little bit, but what you're gonna be able to do is maybe I wanted to check all of these items, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit apply. These buttons are a little hard to see. Again, adjusting, if you guys ever get into APL and you notice that you're running into this issue, you want to change your display settings, drop the zoom down, and the overall resolution, drop that down a little bit. I would do it, but we're in the middle of the webinar, so I don't want to potentially mess anything up. Live demos always have a tendency to just take off on you. But you can choose either filtering by the point number, if you want the point description, the point category. Now, I probably should have used my structural model for this because there are 2,300 and some points in here, so it's trying to pull all of them, or I should have just checked a couple of these. That would have been smarter. And it's going to pull up the point number, the description, your point category, like the roll, phase, level, and the easting and northing, kind of where it's located. Okay, so we're going to be able to see all of that data for any of these points. Now, you'll also notice you can hit select up here, and it actually selects that specific point. And if I want to zoom into it, I hit zoom, and there it is. It takes me right to where that point is. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this one. And the other one I wanted to show you guys was modify. That's going to be the big one here for that color that we were talking about earlier. And you know what? I'm just going to use all. And this is where you can adjust the visibility of it, the prefix, the description, the phase. I'm going to go with color. And again, I'm feeling kind of orange now. I don't want blue. Say orange. And voila, there we go. All of the points in the model are now orange. Okay, so nice, easy way to modify any of those tools and kind of well, not tools, modify those points and make them easier to see, make them stand out a little bit more. I'm going to go back over to my structural model here, and I'm going to unlock my view real quick. Awesome. All right. The next one I wanted to show you guys is a very cool tool that I've been able to kind of play around with here and there. And it can give you some really good information in terms of like deviations on your slab. So I'm going to use the slab analysis tool. With a slab analysis tool, what you're going to do is you're going to have a point file with, let's say, a total station or anything like that, took measurements along this floor. And we have our point file. So I'd go ahead and find that CSV point file here. And it's going to bring in all of those points that were measured. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to compare that against the existing slabs in my model that I have. Now I can choose the XYZ, YXZ import order for my points. How do I want to use like the units? Okay, and then again the point roll. So I'm going to change that from control point to stakeout, and I'm going to say okay. Now here's where we can go ahead and use a specific style. So I'm just going to use the face deviation style here. And then the maximum point distance from face. I'm going to put mine up to 6 inches because I wanted to show you guys a pretty good difference, right? A pretty big difference. So I'm going to put 6 inches. I say okay. And then I'm going to choose the floors or the slabs in this instance that I want to go ahead and run the analysis on. Got that one on the bottom. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got all my slabs. I say okay. It's going to tell me that 25 out of 227 points have fell outside of the maximum deviation, but it's going to give this to me a few times because it's going to run this on every slab. So I say okay, 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 and there it is. We're going to see all of our different deviation points here, and you'll notice there's a scale. It's going to bring in a scale for us as well, so it's going to tell us exactly what is 0 and then how far it's off going up and down towards red or blue. Okay, so very, very good reference. As a side note, we can also run these the type of analysis on your point clouds. That's another very awesome tool. Very awesome tool.
Yeah, seems very effective for something like floor flatness analysis or just the good old QC check there. So you've done the analysis, you've cleaned up your points, you've placed points, all that fun stuff. How are we going to get this to the field? How are they going to use this?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. So to export these points out, you're going to be looking right here under coordinate. I'm not going to move that over, but that's a good note too, guys. You can kind of move things around in this ribbon and position things wherever you need to. But starting off with coordinate, we're going to go up to export. So you have a few different options when you want to export your points out. You can export just the point file. You can export a DWG. It just depends on where you're going, like what your end goal is if you're sending it out to a machine. So you want to send it out to something a data collector can go ahead and upload and then utilize it with a total station or what have you. You're going to go ahead and either, of course, export your points in XYZ or YXZ. You can use the MEP layout or scene targets. The output units are decimal feet, survey feet, inches, meters. But here's where it gets a little cool, right? We can choose to export this as a DXF, DWG, or IFC. We can have it automatically check for duplicate point numbers for us. And if we want to set our elevations to any specific, like 100, 200, 300, anything like that. Now, this is a big one here. For Topcon specific, we can send this file out to Magnet Field, and it's going to put it in an MJF zip file, ready to go. Say, as soon as they open it up with the data collector, they can go to open job and lay out from it. So that's a very, very quick and easy process to get the points out to the field in that instance. Okay, if I hit cancel there, you're also going to see DXF and DWG. If I hit that button, it's going to ask me which view do I want to take. So let's find my lower level here, and then DWG. I'll go ahead and say feet, inches, or meters. We'll go feet. And then do I want to use my project coordinates or shared coordinates for this DWG? I'll go project. And then any output format that you want to go ahead and utilize, I'm going to say default. And then we will put this right into my APL files there. Takes a few seconds, and it's kicked that DWG with those points that are in that view into my folder. So very, very quick process. We can also, for any of you kind of curious, since we can export just that point file out, right, send it out, we can also import points back in. So if you have any, like I have the CSV here, I don't need to import them in because I've already got them here, but you can go ahead and take these points straight from the field if something's already measured and laid out. You can take those points in and bring them in to apply to your model. Okay. You can also import these from BIM360 Glue or BIM360 Field. Okay. Now, a big note about that as well is that if you adjust, let's say, actually, I'm going to go back up here because that was a good note. With these, you'll notice that each one of these points, they have their location, right, their point number, but their description, right? This is a slab surface point. All of these are slab surfaces. They recognize what they are. So if you want to optimize utilizing that description here, there is a way, we kind of talked about it in the last webinar, but that code mapping or auto mapping, you can utilize that to, I want to say recognize those descriptions, those point descriptions, so that when you're placing a point in the office, they can recognize it the same as what they're using out in the field. If they're using specific like symbols, again, descriptions, any data that would make things easier out in the field, you can go ahead and map it in and make sure that as you're bringing these points in, they're recognizing those categories and applying themselves to that.
Yeah, man, that's great stuff. And if you guys want to know more about code mapping with Topcon, so key equipment, just let us know. There's a few different ways that we can do this with the AMGF file as well as the code map itself. That said, man, you did talk a lot about BIM360, and I noticed a lot of the legacy functionality in there. Can you, maybe go over how we get this to BIM360 so that we can use our smartphone or tablet to lay out?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a couple different ways that we can do that. I don't have the Glue plugin installed, but typically you would download the Glue plugin, BIM360 Glue, and from there you can create views that you would push up into BIM360 for layout. You'd place all your points, so it's the same kind of thing. You're going to be going to Glue, pushing the shared view up into the cloud. And then as you make changes, you can go ahead and update that model in the cloud, and anyone who is granted access to it can then access it, okay? And they have all the information there. Now, we also have the new version. So APL with coordinate, you're gonna see model coordination and BIM360 layout. The way to get models up there is there's a couple different methods that we can utilize. One is to utilize our desktop connector. So if I go into cloud model, okay, I can push it right up into the cloud here, and it's going to activate my desktop connector to look for my BIM360 projects that I currently have going on. So I'm going to look at next gen layout here, and I can go into my project files and store this model right into that project. So it's there. Okay, and then when I'm saving, because as I go through, as I place new points or anything like that, I can go ahead and update that model for anyone, again, needing access to it. This is also very key in the layout workflow. If we're using, let's say we're placing points on elements we think are there and somebody verifies it in the field, it's not there, they can create an issue within BIM360 and notify anyone of that specific point needs to be moved, right? Anything like that. The other way to do this is to, again, you can use either the cloud file, you can also use project, and then instead of going through that window we just had, you can utilize your desktop connector again. Here's BIM360 here. You'll see it, the desktop connector installs like a map drive right to BIM360. And it's gonna give you all of the accounts that you're working with and then all of your different projects. So we just kind of path ourselves right back into that next gen layout with project files, and we can save our model there, okay? The third kind of way that we can do this is to actually go ahead and collaborate this model and push it up through design collaboration into document management. And again, in that sense, we're utilizing it as a central model type that people can access, they can link, do all that kind of stuff to get the information that we need and make sure that that data is available to anyone else who needs it.
Yeah, I believe those utilize the BIM360 design entitlement to get up there. That's great, man. Yeah, pushing up to BIM360 is pretty simple. You mentioned that you don't have the glue plugin. Glue is for those of you that are just tuning in, it's the classic piece to BIM360. It's still widely used on projects that are ongoing. Coordinates the new version. There are different ways of getting up there. If you guys have questions about that, definitely reach out to us. As far as getting to the advanced features or functionality and all that stuff, I don't think we're going to have time to kind of talk about that, but we'd love to get some feedback from you guys, some questions so that we can show any of that stuff. So we've got about 7 minutes left. We would love to open this up for questions now. Are there any questions? Unfortunately, there were 2 in the chats, and I answered both of them already. One was about adding electrical points to APL. Is there a way? Oh, here we go. David, here's one for you. Is there a way to tag flex pipes?
Oh, flex pipes. Yes. So let me get back into this model here.
Let me turn you back to the presenter.
Okay. All right, so when you're working with flexible piping, things like that, one thing that's really going to help is when you go to place your points, and let's say I want to use just regular pipe, let's say all, a long run. A parameter is really going to help here. For one, looking at the type name. So I could choose type name, yes, automatic. Now, it's going to go ahead and ask me there. It's going to append that into the point description and everything. That wasn't what I wanted to show. that wasn't it. What I wanted to do is you filter. If you can filter some, so this is actually what I wanted here, select filter by type. That's what it is. And honestly, you're probably going to be running fabrication parts on that anyways. But if not, you're going to see you can utilize this as well for non-fabrication type of elements through the pipes. But what I wanted to show here, filter by type, you get that. That's where if I had any flex pipe here, you could go ahead and utilize that flex duct, flex pipe, anything like that, and grab it. And then it's going to go ahead and place that all along that piping. Okay. And you're asking about tagging it. To tag them, I would just simply use that add tags and then go ahead and grab those points. Now, if you're noticing it's not grabbing them, that instance might be a really good workflow there, just a workaround to get it to grab the entire line, that chain, or again, you can utilize the model line there to grab it.
Great. So another one of the questions that was asked was, what about stake data from the field to review for tolerances, verify accuracy, placement, et cetera. So you kind of went over this a little bit when you talked about import, but the workflow is you can send this data out to the field. They'll lay out. There might be things that they're capturing while they're out there that aren't in your model as well. You can re-import that information, as David was showing with the scan. Similar workflow. If you just do the import, it'll bring it in, and you can do the offsets and all that stuff. Figure out where everything is. It'll actually go through it piece by piece and tell you this point's off, this point's off. It'll do all that stuff for you. There's some other workflows too. You can come back from BIM360. So as David mentioned, where he's coming from the cloud. Same workflow. We can bring stuff in from BIM360 and show that it's moved and update the geometry to reflect that.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say a couple big tools, as Joey was saying, the grid offset report, and then your compare tool is going to be huge for listing out some differences between the different types of points, whether their location has changed, the description has changed, different point at a location, there's a point that's not in the project or not in the file.
Ooh, another great question here. Will the face tool add points to a family face like a panel?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. See if I can find a panel in here. And I believe, yes, it will. But let's test that out a little bit. You know what? Maybe I'll be a little bit smarter about this and see if I can VV. Oh, what am I doing? I'm not hitting VV. I'm trying to get the filter. I'm going into visibility graphics for some reason. Oh, it's Tuesday. But let me grab these. I'll go ahead and run my filter really quick and see if I can find any panels. I'm going to say yes to that, but I'd really like to check that out too. So let's grab electrical equipment here. Oh, freezing up a little bit. Oh, come on. There we go. What is not, it's not letting me do this. All right, all right.
Just try grabbing the, like a air handling or something and
yeah,
a piece of equipment and place it
and
in
then
the
we'll
face.
go with, we'll just place on that. Okay, so in this case, we have an air handling unit here. And what I'll do is go ahead and grab that face tool. And we'll go ahead with the faces of it, edges, automatic. And I'll just call this AHU. Okay, there we go. And then okay, and you're gonna see it's grabbing that face for me there. And there they are, they've been placed. I'll grab was that a heat pump right back there. There we go. It'll snap right to those faces of the equipment. Yes, sir.
Yep, and as David mentioned earlier, sometimes it's hard to see the points, so that's why going into the modify tool to change the colors, very beneficial.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, are there any other questions? I think we've got about a minute left. All right. Well, let me go back to this. There aren't any other questions. Feel free to get a hold of us at 1-800-247-1927. Go to topconsolutions.com. If you need any information, there are web forms available, or you can get a hold of our marketing department and they'll relay that information to us. If you have any specific questions about APL, feel free to contact David or myself. Find us on LinkedIn or pretty much any other platform.
Okay, thank you to our presenters, Joey Whitney and David Campbell. And thank you all for attending this webinar today. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed it and that you're able to join us next week. Thank you and have a great Tuesday.